I think the thing is that what I realised when I first started out, I could write about the most innocent thing in the world and someone would be offended by it. And it's only because it's open to interpretation. Writing's always going to be open to interpretation. So you can write about the most innocent thing in the world and you're going to upset someone with it. And that's when I realised that actually, sod it.
Hello, my name's Nicole and welcome to The Big Chat. I am very, very excited to be speaking to someone today who I've been really inspired by, actually. I love everything she has to say. She's a woman after my own heart. She's a mum. She's certainly got some really fierce opinions. And I'm really excited to introduce you to someone that I've been chatting to for the past few weeks, Mrs Mombastic. Hello, Kate.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm nervous, but I'm okay. Thank you.
Oh, you don't look nervous. You look glorious. You look absolutely glorious.
There's a light shining behind me, so it's quite angelic. It
is angelic, and you've got a fierce braid going through your hair, which I think was one of the first things that I ever sort of randomly found you by. Was a post that you'd written about wearing braids, and should you be, do we have to be contained by age over what hairstyles we're dictated to be wearing? And I was like, wow, I like this woman. She's fierce.
I do try.
Yeah. So, I mean, for those that listen to The Big Chat, we talk to businesses, local businesses, but we also I talk to people that I find inspiring and empowering. And I think you fit that bill. I've really enjoyed it. No, honestly, I've really enjoyed getting to know you, with our chat. So just personal chats. But for those that don't know, you've written quite a lot of controversial content, haven't you? Is that how would you describe that? I mean, you're a blogger. You've got a huge following. Is that and you're a mother, and you are, you're very open about that whole experience, your motherhood experience.
Yeah.
How would you sort of, in a nutshell, explain on that a bit more?
Well, I guess as a teenager and a child, I was quite nervous and shy. I'm an anxiety sufferer. I hate saying that. I really hate saying that because I know that feeling anxious about things is a normal reaction. But I do get very anxious. And I've always been someone who's quite nervous about sharing my opinions.
Okay.
And I was the whole way through my marriage. I'm currently going through a divorce. And I think when I became a mother, I lost myself massively. And it's only then when my children started going to school and they started to, they were a little bit more independent, I suddenly started thinking, actually, no, I have opinions and ideas of my own, and I'm not scared of sharing them with the world. And actually, I am a pretty passionate person. Yeah. And I guess my blog started out very differently to what it is now.
Did it? When did it start out? How long ago did it start out?
I started it in 2018, I think it was, not long after my daughter was born. And it was actually a fitness blog.
You still look very fit. You still look very fit. So,
oh, gosh, sorry. Sorry.
Got you. So it started out as a fitness blog.
It did. So the idea was it was fitness to combat postnatal depression, because I suffered badly with postnatal depression. So exercise was what helped me through. So I wanted to share that with people, and then it just continued to evolve. It then turned into something that was basically me just talking about how tired I was all the time.
But I mean, that's fascinates me. But it's that is fascinating that you start off talking about, you start off, like you say, fitness and how that helped you with postnatal depression, because that's really common, postnatal depression. A lot. Yes. I mean, I think possibly I had some postnatal depression that was undiagnosed. I think a lot of people probably do have it undiagnosed, and those that do have it diagnosed. But that's interesting how you sort of talk about being a fitness blogger, but then you just open up to actually just
No, I never talk about fitness.
Yeah. Well, you look fit, so that's good.
My number one.
You look fit. So,
right.
So what have been some of the most controversial things you've talked about in your blog, would you say? The first, or do you think, sorry, I'm going to ask you these questions.
No, it's really interesting.
What were the first few things that you did that you talked about where you sort of realised that people actually, I mean, you talked about lack of sleep a lot at the beginning, didn't you?
Yeah.
That was a big one.
I think the thing is that no matter what I realised when I first started out, I could write about the most innocent thing in the world and someone would be offended by it. And it's only because it's open to interpretation. Writing's always going to be open to interpretation. So I remember once one of my the blog post that angered people the most was when I was talking about when my son came home to visit, I still want to baby him, even when he's grown up. Oh, the abuse I got on that about, no, we need to raise independent men and you shouldn't be doing everything for him. And I was like, no, it's just because I love him and I want him to be my baby forever. I hadn't realized that it would trigger people that much, but you can never tell. I mean, I wrote a post once about mothers who are tired and I got absolutely attacked by fathers. So now I do try to keep things even though I write it from my perspective, I do try to keep things relatively equal because I do appreciate that it's not competition and everyone gets a bit tired being a parent. So
yeah. And I think
that does it. You could write about the most innocent thing in the world and you're going to upset someone with it. And that's when I realized that actually sod it.
I love that. But it is, isn't it? It is sod it. It's like, if you can't be yourself, there's not much else.
I used to go and comment every single comment that was attacking me and defend myself. And half the time I realized it was just something that was bothering them, or they were having a rough time, or they were tired, or they'd had a bad breakup recently, or it could have been anything. And then I got to the point where I was like, right, well, I don't need to defend myself anymore. This is who I am. You can have your own thoughts. If you're offended, then
don't follow me.
Really upset someone, and I'm happy to admit when I've made a mistake. Yeah. And if make me I'm also very open, so I'm more than happy to change my mind if I think actually I did get that wrong. I'd happily take it back.
But I do think as well with social media, it's kind of, it can be pretty brutal, can't it? I mean, people can be pretty brutal. It's quite a worry for the next generation how brutal it can be, right?
Scares the crap out of me for both my daughter and my son, actually.
How old are your son and your daughter now, Kate?
Son is 6 and my daughter's 3.
Oh.
Yeah. My son's a very, very quiet, very reserved, quite nervous about new situations, and my daughter's an absolute firecracker.
I've got 2 very similar to that. I've got a very relaxed, compliant 11-year-old and a 9-year-old who's absolutely not.
Is it?
Sense of the world. Where do they get this fiery women power from? I can't.
Absolutely no idea.
So you did we had some of our writers sort of investigate a little bit about you.
Oh, God.
As we
it's all bad. It's all
as
bad.
We liked it. No, it's all good. We loved it. There was a famous Easter bonnet that you made, apparently.
God.
I'm going to pull all the crackers out here, my love. There was a famous Easter bonnet that apparently you made that looked like a willy, and it went viral. Is this true?
No, not true. That never.
What about Velcro babies? Something about Velcro babies that went viral. That kids won't let you put them down. Right. No, but I love this because this is so. I think the thing that certainly for me engages me with what you write is it's so real, and it's so, there is just, it's just totally from your heart. I can just tell that. It's absolutely but that's why it's so relatable.
I'm better at writing than talking about how I feel, for sure. I always have been. And do you know what? That Easter bonnet was not expected. And I hadn't even realised. My ex-husband at the time, it was drying on the kitchen table, this Easter bonnet, veiny, like it was meant to be a giraffe neck. And my son and I had been paper macheing like a loo roll, and it somehow ended up with a massive bell end. Sorry, I was going to say that. On the top.
You can say that.
And my now ex-husband came in and he had it on his head and he went, why is our son's Easter bonnet a paper mache penis? I was like, oh, I hadn't even, like, it even had veins on it. That's how bad it was. So, I ended up putting a picture of it on the blog, and it somehow went viral. I got interviewed by The Sun and the Daily.
Well, I can't think why. Content like that's totally out of character for The Sun to cover.
Can I just say that it got first prize?
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, back of the net. What can you say? I mean, clearly they saw something in it that was pretty impressive.
It ended out all right. We just put spots on it and a couple of horns, and
brilliant. I love that. But this is the thing. There's so much comedy and humour in what you write as well. Do you find that that's when you've talked about sort of having anxiety and postnatal depression and then fitness, but laughter, right, is key, isn't it?
Yeah, it's how I
sad when you smile. You actually physically can't be sad. I've learned this through coaching. If you make someone smile, they can't feel sad.
No. And do you know what the irony of that is? The amount of people that comment on my posts telling me to smile more.
I love your faces.
Out of irony, half the time, if you meet me in real life, I am actually probably quite a smiley, jokey person. But I love the frown seriously on social media. It's like an ironic thing, I guess.
What about you had some pretty controversial opinions as well about breastfeeding, didn't you? Because there's a few people actually that I admire, that in particular is a comedian. She's been breastfeeding her son for quite a few years, and people kicked off a bit about that, didn't they? With you, did you get some kickback on that?
I was like, do you know what? I feel like I was quite lucky, if you like. I didn't get a huge amount of abuse. I did one quite controversial interview with I think it was Yahoo, that ended up going a bit viral. I got a lot of abuse from that, but on the whole, it's not been too bad. But my children, I breastfed them till natural term, till they were ready. And I actually there was a crossover. I breastfed my son whilst I was pregnant with my daughter, and then breastfed my daughter. So it was tandem feeding.
Wow.
And my daughter weaned, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, maybe a bit less actually. But it was never something I planned to do. Let's just put it like that. But it just ended up, I couldn't wean them. They wouldn't take a bottle. It just ended up being something that I fell into completely by accident, if I'm honest.
But why do people have such an issue with it? I always think, look, it's okay for those that do. But yeah. I was someone that after...
I get it.
I get it. But after 6 weeks, I think I had to bottle feed mine because they just didn't want to, and I was actually quite sad.
Yeah, I think it's it's a difficult topic, isn't it? Because I think there's a lot of pressure to breastfeed.
Yeah.
And you get it. It's like it's literally rammed down your throat. I have to admit, I was quite guilty of it in the early stages of my blog. I was so pro breastfeeding, and it's only now that I've got further down the line that I'm a bit like, fuck it, do whatever makes you happy. You have to go with what the mother has to be happy, baby has to be happy, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
But if we have it rammed down our throats, the importance of breastfeeding, then there's not a great deal of support. So if you aren't lucky enough to breastfeed, because you just assume, it's the most natural thing in the world, they're going to latch on, it's going to be beautiful, there's going to be, music playing, everything's going to be great. But it's not, is it? It's really hard, it hurts, and it can hurt.
It's the most painful thing in the world. Like literally, you feel like you've got the flu.
But that's
that was where my relationship with breastfeeding stopped. Do you know what I mean? No, but that's what I mean. Like you're saying,
I'm just not left with flaps of skin now. It's like an ongoing joke that the kids ate my boobs because they used to be quite big, and now there's literally nothing left.
Well, if they were tandem going at it, for God's sake. But again, good for you for highlighting something that not everyone wants to talk about, because I do think with social media, we've got a little bit, I always say to people, I've told this story before, but I met some people once for lunch and they were like, oh, you're the person with the perfect life. And I was like, well, I'm hardly going to put the shit bits on social media. But actually, you should be putting all of your life on there, really, if you're going to. And not all of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. My personal Facebook, and this is one of the reasons that I started the blog, actually, along with the fitness stuff, but I also wanted to make it very transparent. I remember baking a cake with my son, who must have been about 2.5 at the time. Oh God, it was so stressful. And he was like getting eggshells in the bowl and he was getting flour everywhere. I was losing my temper and I took a picture and I was like, oh, hashtag making memories or something like that. And I remember thinking at the time and then posting it and looking back at it maybe a year later on my memories thinking, I don't remember it being particularly enjoyable. And actually baking with children
is stressful.
Fun. I don't care what anyone says. I know that might make me sound like a bad person, but I don't enjoy it. I do it, but I get angry.
Well, it is stressful, isn't it? I mean, unless you're a cook, I mean, that sounds crazy delicious.
Even then, might be even more anxious about it because then you know the mess that goes everywhere. But I think we do only post, and I think whilst it's difficult to remember that, or I'm not saying that everyone should then go and post all the crap stuff like, oh, I've had a really day, but just to bear in mind that it's often not really what's going on behind closed doors, is it?
I think that's the key answer. It's not what's going on behind closed doors, because I think almost for some people they can get locked into this sort of, they're presenting themselves in a certain way and then there's like distortion with reality and what's going on. And that, for me personally as a mother, that's what scares me for the next generation.
Yeah, I agree. The amount of people that said when my husband and I said that we were going our separate ways, they just couldn't believe it. We'd celebrated our anniversary like 2-3 months before. Yeah. And a picture on Facebook, like shared a memory from our wedding. And, no one knows what's happening. And it wasn't like it's not a nasty divorce. It just didn't work. Still love him dearly, but it was just not meant to be in that way. So
you've got 2 beautiful children. I've been separated from my children's dad for 4 years and we have an amazing relationship. And I've talked about it a lot, that we co-parent. Yeah. We literally just had a situation with getting my son into school because we co-parent across 2 homes. And there's, which address you in which school. And honestly, we had all this drama. And we're like, look, we're a family, but we're not together. We have homes, but we don't live in them together. But they're still homes and our children. But at the same time, when we split up, we had people being like, you're like the Brad, you're like Brad and Jen, you can't split up, you're such which I was like, I'll take that. He definitely took the Brad comment. I'll take the Jen. Yeah. but it was that thing where people couldn't, like you say, they couldn't understand that we'd split up because it looked so great. But actually it works great now, just as us not being married. Yeah. No, I agree. We actually work well as a team. So it's and he was always so supportive of my, I can imagine that it's not the easiest style of parenting to get behind, obviously because, but he was very supportive, always has been, still is now. So I'm nice. It's worked out well in that sense. And families these days, don't they? No family is conventional, are they? I don't know. I think I meet people where they are and I sort of have these little pangs of guilt sometimes and think, I should get back with my children's father.
That's the other thing. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Exactly.
Well, and then I have a word with myself and go, or I talk to my friends who are married and I'm like, I get every other weekend off. Yeah, that's and they're like, envious. I get every other weekend off and a couple of days in the week if I want. Yeah. So I recently sort of put something on there about being at the gym because I get to go to the gym and I get to go swimming because my kid's dad's looking after them. I know you get that in a relationship too, but
what I'm struggling with, I'm still in the stage where they go and I feel a bit lost. I mentioned earlier about this. I've got a stomach ulcer, which is getting better now. But I think when they were going, I was trying so heavily to just fill my time.
Were you?
Yeah, that I ended up burning out.
Yeah, and I think that is tricky, because I think if 3 days is the most I can do. When they were smaller, we did a week on, week off, which was, I could never do that. I know. I was just depressed. I was just depressed. I get to Wednesday, but yeah, it was too much. But now I get 2 days, and then I start to get like, angsty, just because. But yours are little, aren't they? What was your childhood like? Tell me about boarding school. Tell me what happened there. You got shipped off to boarding school for being a rebellious young woman. What sort of age was that?
I think I was 14 or 15, and I was probably fairly close to expulsion.
Yeah.
From school. So that's when it was intervened. And I went to boarding school, and I'm not sure I was much better there, if I'm honest. I came out with 1 GCSE.
What was it in?
English.
Well, I think you did all right. I mean, proof's in the pudding, really, isn't it? I mean, but that's interesting, isn't it? That you went there, and because personally, I think what's fabulous now about our time and our generation and the generations to come is that we are able to be expressive of who we are much more, getting much more that way, thank God, because I was I think I'm a little bit older than you, but I actually did get asked to leave school.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, my son pointed out the other day, he said, Mummy, you got expelled from grammar school. And I was like, please, can we not talk about this in public? And actually I got asked to leave. And he said, yeah, but if you hadn't left, you would have got expelled. And I did. And I also was in so much trouble when I was younger, running away all the time. I got put into care. I got signed out of parental control. Yeah. But it was the best thing for me, actually, for me, because I could relate to children there. And I thought, actually, I'd look at myself and thought, actually, these guys have got it a bit worse than me. I kind of got that. For me, I got that perception. Things were still not good at home, and I went off the rails. But I've done all right for myself. I'm quite happy with where I'm at in my life and what I can provide for my family. Yeah. But I was of that generation where you had to go for careers advice, and you've got to go to university, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And I'm pleased now that we can just be as we are, who we are. Yeah. And I feel like that's what you're being able to do as well, and what you do. And what were you doing before you were a mum?
So at the age of 21, I was actually working with children. So in preschool. And at the age of 21, I was offered a job in Tanzania in East Africa. Wow. Working on a community project out there in a preschool. And moved over there. I ended up staying there 5 years. I moved back here, and I was on a stopgap working in a pub. And then I was due to go out to India to work on a community project over there. And I met my husband whilst I was working behind the bar, fell pregnant, and
the rest is history.
As they say. So yeah.
So you're nurturing nature, which you've clearly got, and you're very fun where you are. You have. Look, I mean, nurturing comes in all shapes and sizes. I mean, I remember when I had my first baby and got pregnant, one of my bosses at the time, very rude actually, he turned around and was like, well, you're not really the maternal type, are you? And I thought, well, how bloody rude is that?
I don't know who it. I thought I was. And then my children came and I was like, oh, God, I don't know if I am. I thought it would just be really natural. I'd come naturally to me. I'd love pregnancy. I hated being pregnant. I really struggled with newborn. And it's actually only now that they're getting a bit older that I'm really starting to enjoy being a mum.
So, I mean, yes, and that I agree with, because even my daughter, she's like, Mum, can we have another baby sister? I really don't think that's going to happen now. But I'm almost like, if I could not do the first few years, I might, I wouldn't consider it.
I would actually, because do you know what? The one thing for me is that I never, and this probably sounds really stupid, but I had a C-section first, and then second time around I had a vaginal birth. What do they call it? VBAC. So section. And
what do they call it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, VBAC they call it. And I had so much pain relief, and there's just a part of me that's like, I just want to go through the birth just so that I can prove that I can do it without. I know it's silly, and it doesn't.
It's not silly.
But there is a part of me that wants to do that, but then like hand the baby over to someone else. But there you go. I don't want it anymore.
So you basically just want to have the birth, but not the baby.
That's weird, isn't it? I think that's probably. This is why I'm
No, I love that. But I can totally relate to that. I nearly had my daughter in the car, and then I was literally like, I nearly had her in the car, and then I got in, and I'm just like, and then I did have pain relief, and I'm like, even now, I'm like, why did I not just see it through? I'd never, because I just had epidurals with both mine, so I just didn't really feel much. Well, I didn't feel anything at all.
Yeah, is that bad? It's not bad though, is it? It's just, I almost just want to.
It's an experience we've missed out on potentially, but you could certainly have more. Never say never. Never say never. Talking about, what's it, a VBAC you called it?
VBAC.
What you had a friend. Tell me about the grow some balls and another. What was the other movement you started? Grow a vag. Grow a vag. Talk to me about that, please.
And flaps.
This is going to be a whole new episode of Big Chat. What
drive me mad? It was like every single situation, because I talk about getting anxious and nervous about situations. And they constantly saying, "Oh, you need to grow a pair of balls." I was like, balls are weak,
vulnerable,
soft. Vaginas, now they can take a pounding.
I'm going to love editing this.
Bonkers, this constant, "Oh, grow a pair of balls, be a man." No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I guess it's man up. That's the other one.
Yeah, man up. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Do you feel like that sort of whole divide? What do you feel about that? Do you feel like we're sort of merging a bit more male, female energies? I feel like with work, with what's happening with me.
Do you know what? It's probably, it might be a bit controversial. Maybe I don't. So
just tell me. Just talk to me. I can always cut you out.
Well, I know. Sorry. Can we edit this?
I'll just save this bit for my listening.
I grew up with boys, so I've got a brother, 2 stepbrothers, and 2 half brothers, and they're all wonderful, wonderful men. And I grew up around a wonderful group of men. I've often preferred to. I'm one of those. I prefer hang out with guys because I'm probably not that girly, really. Although I have wonderful, only becoming a mother, then now I've got some really close girlfriends, so it kind of changed. But the one thing that concerns me slightly is, and I don't know whether it stems from my abuse, is that I find myself then maybe being harder on my son than on my daughter. Mm-hmm. And like I mentioned earlier about my son being very soft and caring and gentle, my daughter's really strong. And it's constantly pushed in social media that women should be strong and that they should be, whereas boys, it's like, it's okay to be gentle and it's okay to be soft. And there's part of me that thinks, well, if I was to write something about men should be strong and men should be outspoken and men can get angry, it probably wouldn't be received that well. And there's the part of me that says, well, I read a post after post about women being strong and angry and I think, well, I just want the language to be fair. I don't want it to go one way or the other. I don't want then that pressure on my daughter to have to be strong and angry and outgoing. And I think I'm almost worried that there's then a lot of pressure that goes on to women as well. I just think, I had conversation with my stepfather the other day, talking about women's clothing. Something else I'm quite passionate about. And it's only because when I was getting ready when I was younger, I was constantly told, no, you can't go out wearing that. You're going to give the wrong impression. No, you have to wear it up here. No, you can't wear shorts. And my brothers never, ever got that same chat. Mm. So why? It's almost like a blaming women culture already before we've even grown up. And whilst I know that it's to protect us and all the rest of it, but I just want the chat to be fair, not one-sided to one or the other. If you're going to give me a chat about not wearing revealing clothing, then have the same chat with them about not ogling women,
I think that's a very fair comment. And I think as well, it goes back to my comment when someone said I wasn't very maternal. To me, that instinctively was someone telling me that I should be a certain way to be a mother. And it's like, I can be vulnerable and powerful. I can be fierce and soft. I can be a businesswoman and a mother. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be a woman and be all these things. Yeah. And it's like you're saying, you don't have to be super fierce and super strong. but you can be that, but you can
Yeah.
also have a good cry and be a bit needy and need a cuddle sometimes, or be in your feminine side where, you know, one day I might wear a floaty dress, the next day I might dress like B.A. Baracus. I mean, whatever.
I pity the fool.
Yeah, I love. Someone said that the other day. Dress a bit like B.A. Baracus. I was like, I like that. But do you know what I mean? It's just, I think is that kind of what you're saying as well? Because I hear you I so hear you, and I have these conversations with many friends, and I have many male friends, but I also have some really strong. When I say strong women, they're opinionated and they're passionate about being women. Yeah, and I think you're right about men. I think there's this kind of men. It's we need to even the scales a bit, don't we?
And I think people, when they read my blog, they think that I'm a man hater. I often think that people maybe, but I'm not at all. I love everybody. I can't.
Yeah, I would definitely not say that you come across as a man hater. I would not be wanting to talk to a man hater. You want. Yeah, no. But also, I think it's like wanting the best for our children, isn't it? I mean, we talk about
that's where I started to question it, where I realised that I was forever thinking that my son should be compliant and, gentle and easy. Whereas with my daughter, I was like, no, can't be strong, and I was like, well, that doesn't seem particularly fair. It's almost like it's gone
the other way.
How we talk to children. And that was only where my question came from, really.
Do you think as well sometimes we're a bit harder on our firstborn?
Oh, 100%.
Because I'm the same. I'm a bit like, I'm much harder on my son than my daughter. But she's just got me around a little pinky, she has.
It's the same. I'm definitely hard. I know I am. I feel it. And then I have to really draw back. I'm a second born.
Yeah, I mean, like, exactly. I'm a firstborn. My brother and sister will be listening to this going, shut up. You're not doing that whole firstborn thing again, are you? Whatever. They won't be interested. Isn't it harder on the firstborn? Yes, of course it is. How was lockdown for you? I mean, did you find, because you have got a great online community, let's call it that, did you find that gave you support? Or, I mean, how did you find lockdown? Obviously,
which one?
Well, exactly. I mean, certainly the first one, the most brutal, I'd say. Well, I don't know which one was the most brutal. How did you experience it? I think everyone's experienced it differently.
So I think the first one was actually easier for me, if anything. But hard. I couldn't see my mum. I'm very close with my mum. I think I probably found that harder. But I actually took a massive break from blogging for a while. And that's where I came back with a slightly different angle. It was when I started going through the separation that I started blogging again, and that it helped me so much, because the second time round I'd moved into a new house. I was away from my husband. I'd moved the kids away. Wow. They really struggled, in particular my son. So that was hard. So definitely the second time around. But online community, that it helps me through everything, because if I write now and people are like, oh my gosh, I feel the same, then it automatically makes me feel better. People often comment and they say, oh, you make me feel normal or better about myself. But I think what they don't realise is that that's exactly what they do to me.
But isn't that where I think technology can be powerful?
Yeah.
And a community. And we've all learned that in lockdown, because I think before lockdown, we sort of came into it. I mean, we only started podcasting really in lockdown, because it was a way because it was just a way of communicating with, we normally do a big soapbox event, a bit like the Red Bull event. And, we had such a great community and we couldn't do it. We couldn't do the event. Like, well, how are we going to talk to businesses and people? Yeah. It's like this, being able to do this. It's great. It's very inspirational. Yeah. So I do think when it's used in the right way, but obviously like with everything, there's goods and bads, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. There are goods and bad. I mean, I'm guilty. I mindlessly scroll through Instagram and Facebook in the evening, so I can't say that it's all bad.
Not all bad. I mean,
it's just quite important to just follow you can unfollow people. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly. And you don't have to be unkind. No one has to be unkind. I do find when people are unkind, I'm like, don't need to do that. You could just not follow somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd say you're very nervous at speaking. I would argue not. No, I mean, it's, look, you know, I understand it. I appreciate what you're saying. But people do like hearing what you've got to say. You say you prefer to write, but what about public speaking? Do you think you'd ever do anything like that? Have you been asked to do anything like that?
I haven't been asked, but do you know what? When I was younger, acting was always something that I was desperate to get into. The stage theatre for me, watching the theatre is just, it sends me into, that's like my meditation, I guess. It's the one time that my brain can completely switch off. So I'd always loved the idea of being on stage, but stage fright has always got the better of me, if I'm honest.
But I think actually, I was talking to an amazing singer, 16, lady called Biddle. Check her out. She's amazing.
What's she called?
Biddle. Molly from Biddle. And her father passed away when she was 13, and she basically dealt with it through writing songs, and she's got incredible anxiety, and she just said I was like, God, you go on stage and you talk to me, like you sing to people. And she said, actually, a bit like with your community, with the online community, she gets so much back from it. Yeah. It actually helped heal. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? What we're sort of
way with the arts, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's for people who have experienced something that,
comedy the same. Some of the happiest people on stage are sometimes the saddest people behind the stage, aren't they? But it's also what brings that. I think my dad always used to say to me, bless him, he was like, you know, if you can't have someone that's really up without having some really downs. That's not. Yeah. Would you prefer to be like that? Would you prefer to be like that?
I know that.
Like that.
I can't be like that. I had this thought the other day. Yeah, I take one emotion, I ride with it.
Yeah, it is. It's like a wave, isn't it? What's been one of your highest moments talking about that? What's been one of your biggest highs to date? Maybe as a mum or in life?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I've got so many.
Pick a few.
Holding my son for the first time. Is that quite boring? It's quite boring. But it's the most unmatched feeling I've ever had, holding my son for the first time and looking at him, just that, like panic, but love, like that rush of love that you feel.
Those endorphins when they kick in.
Yeah.
Love drug, isn't it?
The love drug, exactly.
That's why we like drugs so much in our youth. We should have just exactly. Babies.
I get it from being a mum. Woo.
But it's true, isn't it? It's kind of what we're trying to.
Probably my highlight. Maybe it might have been. I suppose maybe my first viral post was pretty exciting too.
Oh, that's cool.
Not I'm not counting that.
We won't talk about that one again. And also having your daughter. Let's just get that one in for when she listens to this one day. Having your son and your daughter, those two moments.
I know. Oh yes, and daughter. Yes. I think it was really different with her. I held her. I already had experienced that feeling of love, but I enjoyed the aftermath of the birth much more after her. So I don't know, swings and roundabouts. You know.
What about a low point? I don't always want to go to a low, but you know, it's important.
I think divorce has been pretty tough.
Has it?
Yeah.
I'm still too scared.
Yeah.
Before you separated. I really should get around to it sooner. Has it been quite brutal? Oh, don't get sad. Has it been quite brutal? You can get sad.
Really, it's
a lot.
You know what I think it is that when you're so used to sharing your life with someone and sharing the kids and working as a team, and that way it's a huge adaptation than going into a co-parenting situation, and it can feel lonely at times, you know.
Yeah.
Evenings when you used to sit and chat and things like that. So I guess that side of it is quite tough. And do you know what the other horrible thing about it is that you have to be it's quite a brutal situation.
I think it's important. I think I've got friends that have been through divorces that have been incredibly painful.
Yeah.
And then the actual process of, because even if you do a divorce online, I mean, my husband and I, we're quite sort of happy to sort of split things up.
Yeah.
But everyone's still like, you need a lawyer. You need a lawyer to get it done, because otherwise people can come back on you later on. And you're like, no, they'd never do that. They'd never do that. But unfortunately, yeah. And it's not a nice conversation to have, is it, with you? Someone in your family. But what would be your single, moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on from that jolly old topic that I just threw in there. What would be your single piece of good advice for new parents? Come on, give us some advice. Give us some Mrs Mombastic advice.
Do you know what I'd say? It's probably not that influential, but just go with the flow.
Yeah.
So I think I stress so much about like expiration dates and having to stop doing something, and I must start doing this at this point, and they must be in their own bed, and they must be doing this, that, and the other. But I think just go with the flow. It makes it so much less stressful, and do what makes you happy. Don't constantly worry about making everyone else happy, because you matter too. I think that's where I went wrong. I was so obsessed with making everyone else happy that I forgot to focus on myself a bit.
Well, if you've figured that out now, well done. You go straight to the gold prize, because but it's true. If you think about it in life, that's what a lot of us spend our whole life figuring out, isn't it? That actually, and it's, that takes back to your blog a bit, because actually, if you just do everything to please everyone else, you will not be happy. Guaranteed. It's exhausting. It's either a facade that you live up to, which is it's not authentic.
No.
Or it's incredibly lonely, actually, I would say.
It's lonely. Yeah.
Many people that I coach with anxiety, that's a big thing, that they just feel it's people pleasing. We've been brought up as a generation of people pleasers, and it's tricky to get out of once you get into it. So if you figure that out.
I'm not sure how good I am at it, but I'm trying to be a people pleaser, and I kind of just gave up. The one thing is for me, I do hate confrontation of any kind, but I'm getting better. It means then that if someone makes me feel like shit, I probably wouldn't tell them. I'd rather just let them continue treating me like shit, and then eventually I'd just cut them out of my life. I'd rather that than have to confront them.
I think you and I have a lot in common. I often
believe that.
I like it, but I think it's the same. It's that thing, isn't it, where you just, I don't like confrontation. I was like, if I've got to tell someone, then I'd rather just sort of quietly move away, and then,
messaging them all.
Just fade them out.
Yeah. No, yes, exactly. I do that.
I'm trying not to do that, actually. I'm trying better, because I don't like when people do it to me. So I'm getting better at being, I think, sort of since doing more talking stuff with people, I'm therapy and things, I'm getting much better at dealing with that discomfort when I tell someone how they make me feel. Because I then worry about how I'm making them feel. If I said to you, Kate, you've made me feel this way, then I'd look at your face, and if you look like you were going to cry, or you looked slightly hurt, I'd be like, but I'm really sorry. It's okay. It's okay that you hurt me. And then it just
I'm like, fine, don't worry, I can take it.
What are your plans for the future? You said about, I'd love to see you act. I mean, look, I just love all those faces. They're perfect. I love them. Glorious. What other things would you love to do? You mentioned acting. For anyone listening, speak to Kate about acting, please. We'd love that. But what else would you? What can we look forward to seeing more of in the future from you?
My book, which
tell us about your book.
2030. By the rate at which I'm writing it, it's not going to plan. I'm my own worst critic, and I get massive. What do they call it?
Writer's block.
Right? No, I never have that. Really.
I was going to say, talk to Giles, the producer, about blank.
Imposter syndrome, that's the one.
Do you? Okay, yeah. As you're writing.
As I'm writing, and what it'll do is I start writing, everything's great, and I'm on a massive high. This is our riding the wave thing. Yeah. Massive high. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm going to write a bestseller. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm terrible. It's dreadful. I have terrible ideas. No one's going to want it. And then I'm like, right, I might as well stop. And then I restart again. And so it's finding a balance, I think. It's probably going to be the top.
What the book's about?
No.
Oh.
I've started about 5. I even went through a phase where I was like, I'm going to write a thriller.
Did you?
And I started amazing. And I got like 2 chapters in. I was like, this is awful. I don't even like thriller. I don't even like reading thrillers myself. Why am I doing this?
When would you like your book to be released? What you need to do is set yourself a goal.
Oh, you're right.
Set yourself a date.
Yeah, I know. Do you know what? My brother, who's very supportive of my writing and my blog and things like that, I am meant to send him the pages every Friday. Every Friday, he's like, Kate, stick with the plan. Stop writing about other stuff. Just go in with what we'd agreed. I was like, okay.
You should definitely have a chat after this with Giles, producer. Who's, as you know, he's a book author. He might have a few little.
Yeah, well, that'd be cool. Yeah,
lots of books. He might be able to, and he speaks to lots of writers, so he might be able to give you a little bit of advice there. But my advice would be set a goal. Maybe not once. I mean, every Friday. That's a big commitment. That's like once I set the team, I said, right, we're going to do Monday morning meetings every week, and we're going to go over what we're doing every week. And I was the one that ended up not doing it. I was, I can't deal with this commitment. Once a week's far too much for me. So maybe just set a goal of next year or the year after.
Oh no, I've got that. I do have. The initial goal was I whiteboarded it, so I got my whiteboard up and I was writing about it. So it was vaguely organised at one point. It just went a bit.
So we've got the book, actress, actor, mum, possibly another. Well, not a V. Well, is it another VBAC? Will it be another few experience or experiencing a birth? What about your fitness? What about your fitness? Like you said, you don't write about your fitness now, but you do. You're an advocate of. You have a healthy lifestyle. You love exercise. Yeah. It's good for mental health, right?
I do CrossFit, which basically means that I'm telling people that I do CrossFit. Have you ever done like the Ironman challenge? I do CrossFit.
You gonna do anything like the Ironman challenge or anything like that?
I'd love to. Yeah, anything like that.
Something like that.
I'm also a cyclist.
Are you?
Mm.
Oh my God. Okay.
I don't wear like though. I'm like a more of a what's the word? Alternative cyclist.
What?
In my Converse.
Brilliant. Have you got a basket on the front of your racer?
Might as well do. I always have my backpack on, my Converse, cycling along, probably on the wrong side of the road. No road awareness. So.
Okay, so watch out for Kate on your local roads.
It's a bright bike. You can't miss it.
See the Converse coming soon. I've just loved chatting to you today. Will you come back and chat to me again when you've done
of course.
Next week, next Friday?
Famous.
No, but I mean, honestly, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. And I just think that I've mentioned you to a few people and said, you should really follow Mrs Mombastic, see what she does. I think it really does empower people, not just women, but empowers people to speak their true voice. And personally, I'm a great advocate of that. And I think, this show is all about giving people a voice, and you've certainly got that and give that, and, more power to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's a big thing. It's a big thing for me, having a voice and using it.
Yeah. Well, please keep doing so.
I will.
Thanks, Mrs M.
The power of writing.
To the power of writing. Until next time.
Until next time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.